How do you handle it as a private citizen when a police officer kind of loses their mind and then lies about what happened? Hi everyone, welcome to today's research-informed defensive lesson here at Active Self-Protection. I'm your host, John Correa. Today's is an absolute doozy of an event. It comes to us from Manheim Township, Pennsylvania. To win the fight after the fight, you need help. After a use of force, I trust Firearms Legal Protection to help me win the fight for the rest of my life. From their 24/7 attorney-answered hotline to coverage for the use of all legal tools, Firearms Legal Protection has you covered. Get a discount by signing up at the link below. You see this man pulling up in his motorcycle? Well, this little bitty town, the chief of police was driving near him in an unmarked car, said he saw him run through a red light and then drive up on the sidewalk and violate some traffic regulations. So the chief pulls up behind him and he is going to get out of his car and draw his gun and start issuing commands for the guy to get on the ground. Well, the guy's like, what? You can see he just barely saw him. So the chief grabs a hold of him and a struggle ensues. And this guy, and we can't hear what is being said here because there's no audio on the security camera. The guy was pulling up to his place of employment. So now the chief, looks like he tries to get away on the motorcycle a little bit. Now the chief pulls him off the motorcycle and this causes the guy, his helmet to come off and him to flee. So he did run off for some time. And this was on April 30th. They arrested him the next day on May 1st. They found him, arrested him and charged him with a whole bunch of offenses, including aggravated assault on a police officer and a bunch of traffic violations. Several really significant felonies here. Now, in that arrest report, the chief here, who you can see still has a gun in his hand, he had put it away for a moment there and then got it out again, where he's going to get on the radio now, and then eventually you're going to see him turn the lights on his cruiser that he had not turned on before. Well, eventually what happened here is this video came to light. It was released by the defendant's attorneys, and that caused a real change in things. And the district attorney said, okay, we are ending this completely, and they dismissed all charges against the motorcycle rider, and the chief of police is now on administrative leave and being investigated. The district attorney said they're not going to file charges because nothing here rose on the chief's part to the level of criminal conduct, but the police department is doing an internal investigation as to whether this was in policy, and the chief is on leave. This is a small town, mind you. This is a town of 40,000 people, give or take, about 70 miles west of Philly. It's the biggest town in its county, but it's a small county and a rural area for sure. Good Lord, what a disaster. And quite frankly, I hope the police chief here pays for his actions. I hope, the misconduct of stating wrongly what happened and mischaracterizing it is a pretty serious character violation. So we got some lessons to think about in this one, but honestly, I think that the town council should think about replacing him. So let's remind ourselves here, we don't know exactly if this guy did run a light. We don't know if he was driving erratically. I've seen plenty of motorcyclists do that as a guy who's ridden a motorcycle since I was literally 5 years old. Motorcyclists can sometimes do that kind of stuff. Let's make sure that we are good drivers on the road, right? So there's nothing here that excuses bad behavior as a motorist. And as a motorcyclist, you're part of the motoring public. And listen, I'm all about look out for motorcyclists too, having been one for almost all of my life. But recognize it's on us to be good drivers, to not run red lights, to not ride up on the sidewalk away from people, though we don't know. Given the fact that the chief he said the way he said these events went down are not close to what they actually were on the videos. So that kind of sheds light on was any of this stop even reasonable, and that I don't know. Now, let's think about how this goes down. Given the fact that the chief's like, okay, this guy is driving erratically, and now I'm going to pull up in a low-marked cruiser. It has lights on it, but it's not marked otherwise, and the chief just gets out and points a gun at the guy. Okay, police point guns at people with some regularity. This would be then like what? Like a felony level stop? For what? What kind of humongous public safety issue is this guy in right now that the police would want to draw a gun on him? I don't see any justification for that in this particular case. This seems like an overreach by a guy who's just mad that maybe this guy did something that was a traffic violation. He's not even on traffic patrol. Call it in and like, hey man, somebody, go give this guy a ticket or something like that. But coming up and doing this, and you can see our motorcyclist doesn't even recognize that he's there. He doesn't even see him here. So, and from a practical perspective, as a police officer, if you feel like a felony stop is warranted, you're not going to close distance on this guy. You're going to stay behind your door. You're going to issue commands, point the firearm if that's what you feel like you need to do, and wait for backup. And you certainly should have called for backup to initiate a felony stop. So this is a hot mess. I just think he's mad and offended that I don't know if the guy cut him off or he just got frustrated and pissed off that he'd done something in traffic. Even somebody running a red light is no cause to pull a gun on somebody. This is pretty egregiously bad in my opinion. So, and from a use of force policy, this is, I don't see any justification for drawing the firearm here. Now, finally, the guy sees him and now again, you just see a guy get out of the car, and I see an unmarked car that doesn't have its lights on. I can't see that the guy has seen the fact that he's a police officer. Now, we don't know what they said between them, but regardless of that, has the officer identified himself as an officer? As he said, township police, get on the ground, you're under arrest. I don't know, but even so, this motorcycle rider, he has to orient to all that. Now, of course, somebody pointing a gun at you is a pretty serious thing. And if he isn't seeing the fact that this is a police officer, he's in shorts and a polo shirt, he doesn't have his badge out, he just got a gun pointed, I don't see anything identifying him as a police officer. And could that normal person think, oh no, this guy's trying to mug me, he wants to kill me, bad things are happening here, and want to flee from that? Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility here. Now, again, as the chief, if you feel like, oh, okay, I have to felony stop this guy, well, then stay at distance from him. You're doing bad tactics here. And yes, this is a small town police department. So do small town cops get the best training on earth? No, they don't. But he's the chief of police. If he's doing bad stuff and dumb stuff like this and stuff that's out of policy on this, imagine what's going on with the rank and file in the department. And it's still a small-ish town. 40,000 people is not a small town, but it's not a large town either. So I just don't see anything good coming out of this. And thank God for the video, because otherwise it's the chief's word against this man's word. And who is everybody going to believe? They're probably almost certainly going to believe the chief of police, which is why I'm really grateful we have things like security cameras here. And this is not a good thing to be doing here again. And I'm not saying the chief is necessarily purposefully lying here, but his memory and recollection of things is certainly not what we see recorded on the camera. Now, he is going to make more mistakes here, and he is going to come up and put hands on this guy with a firearm in his hand. And I cannot tell you enough, this is a terrible idea. This is tactically incredibly unwise. If you feel like you need to lay hands on somebody, you need to put that gun away first. This is exactly how we have a sympathetic discharge, where you grab a hold of him with your support hand and your gun hand squeezes at the same time. And if your trigger finger discipline is not incredible, you end up putting a round into somebody that you did not intend to. And officers, remember, Supreme Court has held, if you do that and negligently shoot somebody, your qualified immunity is toast, and you're going to personally pay for that. A, don't point guns at people you're not ready to shoot. B, don't put hands on somebody with a gun out on you. If you need to put hands on them, put the gun away in the holster. Eventually, the chief will put the gun away in the holster. I want you to recognize here, he's carrying an inside the waistband holster here. This is not at all the same as reholstering in your duty rig for police officers in this big, 5-gallon bucket you've got offset off of your hip. Rather, an inside the waistband holster takes a significant amount more care to holster successfully. And he finally is going to be able to do that while he's wrestling with this guy. Now, I'm going to say, should we fight with police officers against an unlawful arrest? I mean, I'm not a big fan of fighting with the cops. It's a great way to get shot, okay? It's a great way for things to go bad and for more charges to get filed. Might I understand in this particular case, this guy, that I can't see anything that identifies him as a police officer? Even if he said, I'm the cops, I don't see anything to validate that. I don't see anything on his car or anything like that that validates that. Might this guy go, man, this guy's trying to kill me and I'm riding off? Or might he not even have heard him say he's the police with his helmet on? That's all possible. So trying to get away from the guy, I actually understand. Now, again, if he did understand that this was the cops, don't run from the cops like this. Just take, okay, man, whatever you want, officer, I'm so sorry, and then figure out what's going on later. And thankfully, we have the video that shows what did happen here. Now, again, though, I can understand why he's scared to death, not understanding what's going on, and ends up wanting to fight this guy. Now, you see the chief here putting his gun away one-handed with his, eyes on other stuff, trying to fish his gun into a holster. What do you think the chances are that the chief did not point that gun at himself trying to put it away? The fact of the matter is it's on his hip. He's got his leg braced in order to try to, hold on to this guy. he is pointing that gun at himself a whole bunch. And this is not good holstering technique, which is why, again, this was very dangerous. Thankfully, he ended up getting the gun back in the holster. So, sometimes fortuitous outcomes reinforce bad behaviors. Don't do this. This is not how I want you doing things as a private citizen or as a plainclothes police officer. If you need to holster the gun, get unentangled from somebody, safely, carefully, reluctantly holster the gun, then go about whatever it is you need to do, because this with an inside the waistband holster, crazy, crazy dangerous here. He absolutely could have shot himself. Now then, he's gonna jerk this guy off of the bike, and now obviously here, I'm not for fighting with the police by hand, okay? So again, you're probably not gonna win this fight. This guy ends up going to jail for a couple of days. He ends up getting charged with serious felonies. Those end up getting dropped, but what a giant pain. He's gonna miss days of work, and he's gonna have all these other problems. This is bad juju. But if he doesn't know that that guy's a cop, because, and I think that could be very, legitimate that he might not, getting away from this guy and escaping, yeah. And from the police perspective, this chief doesn't know how to take somebody down very well, doesn't know how to hold on to somebody very well. It's actually a lot harder to take somebody who doesn't want to go to the ground than you think it is. And I see people go, oh, it's really easy. No, it's not. Go try to do it against a resisting person. It's a lot harder than you think it is. Just a few weeks of jiu-jitsu and trying to get people off their feet and initiate takedowns will teach you it's a little harder than you think against somebody who doesn't actually want to be taken to the ground. And in jiu-jitsu, they do want to be taken to the ground because we want to get there where we can strangle each other. So there's that, right? So he gets away from the guy. Now, I think that the district attorney saw through some of the brouhaha here, some of the stupidity, and was like, wait a minute, time out. The video here does not match the chief's version of events. Was that simply a misunderstanding, a misremembering by the chief, or was it actually a falsehood told on purpose to bolster his story out of shame or guilt or embarrassment? I can't tell you that. I haven't seen any of the internal affairs investigations, and I don't want to cast aspersions on people, but given the fact that the district attorney said, we're just going to call this one offsetting penalties on the field, and this young man is going to go free, and the township will deal with the internal affairs investigation. Go read the news stories I've linked in the description. And the DA said, we don't investigate police internal affairs issues. That's for the city to investigate, not the district attorney's office. I do note here, though, that the chief turned his lights on later. So I don't know. Again, that looks to me like somebody's trying to cover up. Oh, wait a minute. I identified myself. Look, my lights were on when my fellow cops showed up. That doesn't look great, to be quite frank. But, he, on the other hand, could be saying, hey, I want my lights on so that any cop that's in the area starts to see that there's lights on. I've radioed in that I need help so they know where I'm at. This one's a mess. This is stupid stuff. I think here, this whole thing doesn't happen. In all likelihood, if our motorcycle rider is just a decent person and rides responsibly. Okay, so that's a good lesson here. But for all my fellow cops, if you're not out on patrol, this is why most cops I know who are not on patrol, just unless it is crazy, egregiously putting people's safety at risk, just ignore it, let it go. At most, call it into dispatch, have somebody who is on patrol and doing traffic enforcement deal with that problem. Certainly, there are some real problems here with drawing the firearm. I got real problems with him drawing the firearm here and with going hands-on with a firearm in his hand. That's really bad tactics and really, really probably should be, if it's not, outside of policy from the department. And that policy should be very clear on that. And if he has acted outside of policy, I hope the chief, I hope they have enough internal affairs, enough independence in their agencies that their city council, town council, however that works, can appropriately take disciplinary measures to make sure this kind of stuff doesn't happen again. I think this is a bad one, but I think there still are some interesting defensive lessons that all of us can learn to better cover our asp.